Good evening, students. Today we are going to discuss about diversity in the living world. So first, we should know about the introduction of living world. Biology is the science of life forms and living process. The living world comprises an amazing diversity of living organisms. Early man could easily perceive the difference between inanimate matter and living organism. Early man defined some of the inanimate matter, wind, sea, fire, etc., and some among the animals and plants. A common feature of all such forms of inanimate and animate objects was the first sense of awe or fear that they evoked. The description of living organisms, including human beings, began much later in human history. Societies which indulged in anthropocentric view of biology could register limited process in biological knowledge. Systematic and monumental description of life forms brought in out of necessity. Detailed systems of identification, nomenclature, and classifications. The biggest spin of such studies was the recognizing of the sharing of similarities among living organisms both horizontally and vertically, so that all the present days living organisms both horizontally and vertically, that all the present days living organisms are related to each other and also to all organisms that ever lived on this earth. Was a revolution which humbled man and led to cultural movements of conservation of biodiversity. So in the following chapters, the unit will be description, so including the classification animals and plants from the taxonomists' perspectives. Next. So first we should know about Ernest Mayr. He is a scientist. Born on 5th July 1904 in Kempten, Germany, Ernest Mayr, the Harvard University evolutionary biologist who has been called the Darwin of 20th century, was one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time. Mayr joined Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Sciences in 1953 and retired in 1975, assuming the title Alexander Agassiz Professor Zoology Emeritus throughout his nearly 80 years career. His research spanned ornithology, taxonomy, zoogeography, evolution, systematics, and the history and philosophy of biology. He almost single-handedly made the origin of species diversity the central question of evolutionary biology that it is today. So he also pioneered the currently accepted the definition of a biological species. Mayr was awarded the three prizes widely regarded as the Triple Crown of Biology: the Balzan Prize in 1983, the International Prize for Biology in 1994, and Crafoord Prize in 1999. Mayr died at the age of 100 in the year of 2000. So Ernest Mayr age is 1904 to 2004. Okay, students. Next, the first chapter, living world. Okay. How wonderful is the living world? The wide range of living types is amazing. The extraordinary habitats in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountains, deciduous forests, oceans, freshwater lakes, deserts, or hot springs, so leave us speechless. The beauty of galloping horse, of migrating birds, the valley of flowers, or The attacking shark evokes awe and a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among the members of populations and among the populations of the community or even in the molecular traffic inside a cell make us deeply reflect on what indeed is life. So this question has two implicit questions within it. The first is technical one and seeks answer to what living is as opposed to the non-living. So, and the second is philosophical one and seeks answers to what purpose of life is. As scientists, we shall not attempt the answering the second questions. We will try to reflect the what is living. So diversity in the living world. If you look around you, will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, your pets, or other animals and plants. So there are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they are all around you. If you were to increase that area that you make observations in, the range and the variety of organisms that you see world, you see world would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. So each different kinds of plants, animals and organisms that you see represents a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This is first biodiversity are the number and types of organisms present on living on earth. So we should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, the new organisms are continuously being identified. As started earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. So these local names would vary from place to place. So even within a country, probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find way and means to talk to each other. To refer the organisms we are talking about, hence there is a need to standardize the naming living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called as nomenclature. So what is that? It is a nomenclature. So obviously the nomenclature are naming in only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what the organism is the name is attached to. This is identification. What is this? Identification. So in order to facilitate the study, the number of scientists have established procedures to assign a scientific name to each known organisms. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on the agreed principles and criteria which are provided in the International Code of International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, ICBN. ICBN means International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. You may ask, how are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, ICZN. ICBN, International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. ICZN, International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. The scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name. description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organisms. Biologists follow the university accepted principles to provide scientific names to known organisms. So each name has two components, the generic name and the specific epithet. So this system of providing name with the two components is called as binomial nomenclature. Binomial, what is that? Binomial. First one is generic name, second one is specific epithet. So this system providing a name with two components is called as binomial nomenclature. This is naming system given by the whom? Given by whom? Given by Carolus von Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus is being practiced by biologists all over the world. This naming system using two-word format was found convenient. Let us take the example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific names better. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. What is that? Mangifera indica. This is the Mangifera indica is the mango scientific name. Okay, what is the scientific name of mango? Mangifera indica. Let us know about the binomial name. In this name, Mangifera presents the genus. What is present? Mangifera presents genus. Okay, what is that? Mangifera is defined as the genus in indica. Indica is a particular species. Indica is a particular species. Okay, or specific epithet, or a specific epithet. So other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. So 1. Biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. So what is the first rule? Biological names are generally in Latin language and written in italics. So they are Latinized or derived from the Latin irrespective of their origin. Second principle. Second rule enti? So second rule. So the first word in a biological name represents the genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. So both words in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. Next, see the fourth rule. The first word denoting the genus starts with the capital letter. You should know, must and should keep in your mind. So what is that fourth principle? The first word denoting the genus starts with the capital letter. Okay, what is that? Capital letter. Okay. Next, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. Specific epithet starts with a small letter. First, genus starts with a capital letter. It can be illustrated with the example of Mangifera indica. So Nana, identify this. Genus starts with capital letter. Mangifera, here is M is a capital letter. M, Mangifera. Mangifera means Mangifera. In this Mangifera, M starts with a capital letter. So indica, it is a specific epithet. So this specific epithet starts with I, small letter. Okay, small letter. I అనేది, it is a small letter. So name of authors appears after the specific epithet at the end of the biological name and is written in an abbreviated form. Mangifera indica Linnaeus. Linn. So it indicates that species was first described by the Linnaeus. Okay, since it is nearly impossible To study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. So this process is classification. Classification is a process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we easily recognize the groups such as the plant and animals or dogs, cats, insects. Okay. The moment we use any of these terms, we associated certain characters with the organisms in that group. So, what image you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, so each one of us, we see dogs and not cats. If we were to think about Australians, so we know what are they talking about. Similarly, suppose we are to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears and body hair. So what are the main characters in mammals? How we are identify the mammals? So the mammals we are identified as with the help of first general. What is the general characters? First general characters: external ears and body hair. The body with hair. So these two important points are identifying the mammals. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, the picture in each of our minds will be of wheat plants, not of rice or any other plant. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc., are convenient categories we are used to study the organisms. The specific term for these categories is taxa. Here you must recognize that taxa can indicate the categories at very different levels. So plants also form a taxa. So wheat is a known as that. A dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. So mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals, dogs represents the taxa at different levels. Hence, based on the characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process classification is taxonomy. External and internal structures, along with the structure of cell development process and ecological information of organisms, are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, and nomenclature are the process that are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. So in early days, human beings needed to find source for their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification were based on the uses of various organisms. So human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about the different kinds of organisms and their diversities, but also the relationships among them. This branch of study was referred to as the systematics. What is that? Systematics. The word systematics is derived from the Latin word. So this is also the systematic word is also derived from Latin word. What is that? Latin word. Okay, systema, which means the systematic arrangement of organism. Systema means systematic arrangement. What is that? Systematic arrangement of organisms. What are that? Systematic arrangement of organisms. Okay, Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. What is the Linnaeus publication book? That is Systema Naturae. Systema Naturae is the title of whose book? Linnaeus book. Okay. Carol Linnaeus. The scope of systematics was later enlarged and larger two, including identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationships between organisms. Taxonomic categories. So classification is not a single step process but involves a hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or category. Since the category is a part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is also called taxonomic category, and all categories together constitutes the taxonomic hierarchy. So each category refers to as a unit of classification, in fact represents a rank, and is commonly termed as a taxon. Taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. So insects represents a group of organisms sharing common features like 3 pairs of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified. Thus, we're giving a rank or category. Can you name other such groups of organisms? Remember, groups represents the category. So category further denotes rank. So each rank or taxon, in fact, represents a unit of classifications. These taxonomic groups, categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. So taxonomical studies of all knowing organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus, species. So all organisms include those in the plant and animal kingdoms have species as the lowest category. Now the question you may ask is, how to plant and organisms in various categories? The basic requirement is knowledge of characters of an individual and group of organisms. This helps to identify similarities and dissimilarities among the individuals of the same kind of organisms as well as of other kinds of organisms. So next class we will discuss about in the next session. Thank you.